Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if your sun is in Leo and your moon is in Taurus. And I immediately thought of Mick Jagger, who has this combination. And as we know, Mick Jagger is a singer, and singing is associated with Taurus, probably because Taurus is ruled by Venus, and also Taurus it rules the throat. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so I'm trying to get my brain to cooperate. So this is a double fixed energy, and whoever has this combination is going to be very resolute. When you decide that you want something, you're going to do it. Now, this will be even more pronounced if your Mars is in Leo, and I think your Mars can also be in Taurus. So either one of those, because that is a fixed sign. And so that will be like really somebody who is almost like in some cases obsessed to do something, rigid about what they do and won't veer from their course, even if things aren't going that well. But even if you don't have that Mars position in a fixed sign, you still are going to be very determined. And you will tend to be very set in your ways, because fixed signs like to do the same thing over and over again. There is a positive angle with this, and that is that the person can be very disciplined because they stick to things. So, and they also tend to finish what they started. So that can be very good. Now, I just used the word started. That is a kind of a problem. If you don't have a lot, like if you don't have cardinal energy in your personal points, and that would include your ascendant, but also Mercury, Venus, or Mars, if you don't have them in any cardinal signs, you may need that kind of other person or people to kind of give you a jump start. And I've listed a number of personal points, so it is very possible that you would have one of them in the cardinal modality, but I think especially with Mars, it can be helpful because it can get people motivated. In my personal chart, I have a lot of mutable, but I have Mars in Capricorn, so that's very helpful for at least doing something, because, it's so easy to be more complacent when you don't have that. And so the 4 cardinal signs are Aries, and its opposite sign of Libra, and Cancer, and its opposite sign of Capricorn. So just see if you have that. But in general, this will create somebody who is very predictable, who is very consistent, and who doesn't give up if they meet with some sort of rejection or defeat. With the sun specifically in Leo, you may have ambitions with show business or entertainment in general. So it could be the theater. It doesn't have to be like Hollywood or the music industry or something like that. You may just be happy being a musician and working at a local, orchestra, whatever they have in a major city, or you just do it on your own. And this is really good to have this double fixed energy if you are embarking on some kind of artistic career, because that is sometimes fraught with a lot of frustration, rejection, obstacles. It's certainly not a profession that is very supported by our society. Society tends to put you in a box created by prefabricated professions. And if you think back to high school, and if you ever had counseling for job counseling or whatever you call it, vocational type of thing, I don't think they had artist or performer as even a possibility. They might have. I don't remember that. And so there, society doesn't encourage you to go down that route. And you may really have talent, and having the sun in Leo is ruled by the sun. So this is where that warmth that is associated with Leo comes from. Leo rules the 5th house, which is the house of creativity and also love. So Leos tend to be both creative and romantic. And so, normally I wouldn't necessarily go on and on about that kind of area of life, but with a Leo person, I definitely think that it's, a serious consideration. And you combine that with somebody with the moon in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So it has an affinity for music and loves it. Oh, yeah, and here's another thing, too. By the way, I have done a bunch of astrological, what do you call it, analyses, or yeah, I guess you would say the plural, of different famous people. And I don't think I've done Mick Jagger, though. I've got to do him, and that would be that combination. But I know that Jim Morrison had the moon in Taurus, and so does Elton John. Now, I was going to say that Elton John and Jim Morrison can show that having the moon in Taurus can lead to weight issues, because Taurus loves food and is very self-indulgent. However, Mick Jagger, I was just talking to my partner about this, and Mick Jagger has never had an ounce of fat on him. And he has Gemini rising, so the rising sign can really speak to your physique, your body type, or what you tend to look like. I don't know if that's true for all of your life. It might be true up until your first Saturn return. I've read so many things, but I mean, you have to look at that and see if you resemble those remarks. But so definitely look at that. I may do the sun and rising sign combinations just because it's an interesting study in contrasts. But that can be, I do think that in general, there can be an issue with indulgence with the moon in Taurus, especially if you feel emotionally out of whack. The moon is actually exalted in Taurus, so it's considered in a very good standing. And so it's not to say that there's something bad about having the moon in Taurus. I actually am kind of curious why the moon is, considered in its best position in Taurus, because there are some things that I would look at with somebody who has this moon sign. Remember that the moon is our emotional nature. Well, Taurus is an earth sign, so it's not really emotional. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what they're talking about. But I think that it has to do, I'm thinking of the Empress in the tarot, the fertility. Not that I think of Taurus as particularly fertile, in a literal sense of, becoming impregnated. I think the water signs might be tops on that list. I'm not sure, but I seem to have recalled that. But I think that the earth element itself is very in alignment with this idea of, especially Taurus being a fixed earth sign, with being very grounded in one's reactions. Okay, so I have the moon in Virgo, and this is a little bit more, analytical. With Taurus, it's more like this ability to withstand things. Taurus is the rock. So you may be somebody who is a steadfast influence in other people's lives. And because you have the sun in Leo, you have a great capacity for positivity. Oops, my laptop just fell. If your, I would say, sun and your moon are not close enough to form a square, because these two signs actually form an angle that is considered challenging, but they have to be within, I don't know if 10 degrees is the typical orb. They have to be within certain degree closeness to one another, close proximity, in order to be an actual square. And there's friction there. And that friction can be that you are trying to achieve things and feeling a sense of emotional, maybe a lack of emotional resonance at times. So your emotions may clash with your goals, your life goals. I have this myself, although it's in mutable energy, so it has a lot more give. When you have it in two fixed signs, you really have to, it's like untangling a knot. And you have to get a handle on your feelings, and you also have to get a handle on your goals. Leos are very ambitious. You're also very hard workers. So again, look at that Mars. See what sign that Mars is in. See what planets you have in the 10th house, especially maybe the 6th house, but especially with the 10th house, because Leo wants to rise to the top. You're very proud, you're very ambitious, and you're very hardworking. That combination tends to predict that you will succeed. But your emotional nature may impede that. So you have to get that clear. Having a square, having an opposition, having something challenging doesn't mean that you're doomed to whatever that is. It can simply mean that you have to make peace with that side of yourself. You can't shove it under the rug and expect to just have everything turn out. So, yeah. Now, one of the things I want to talk about that I think is a huge area of your life is love. This is because Leo is the ruler of the 5th house, and it is about love, and because Taurus is ruled by Venus and is a lover. It's no surprise. I think a lot of people who know even a little bit about astrology know that Taurus is notorious for being jealous, for being possessive. This is because, in part, because Taurus rules the 2nd house, and this is a house of possessions. Surprise, surprise, the house of your earning capacity, the money that you earn. So it's a materialistic house. But Taurus, being the first earth sign, can extend this to people, and they can see people as objects. They can objectify them sexually in the terms of being attracted to a certain feature in a person, and that being their first and foremost point of attraction. I was just, my mind just got taken to Rod Stewart, who happens to be a Capricorn. But I remember, but that's an earth sign. So, you never know if he has some sort of Taurus energy lurking around. But I remember him talking about having, he always would be attracted to these blondes. And they would usually be, I think, taller than him. And I don't know if he was attracted to long legs or something like that. But the thing is, there are certain, but then, he had, divorces. And I think he said that he was going to start getting involved with brunettes or some other type of woman. But hopefully he didn't transfer like that fixation to another, to another body part or another hair color. Hopefully he's like just expanding his territory. Like I said, I don't even know if he has Taurus, but I'm just using that as an example. So, but emotionally, because this is the moon, this can lead to somebody who is very possessive. And so this is definitely something to work on, because Leos tend to be possessive as well. The fire signs do believe in freedom, but you might be one of those people who believe in freedom for you, but not the other person. That's not cool, as you probably would gather. So you don't want to do that. That can lead to a lot of very tumultuous love affairs. Speaking of love affairs, I think these are two highly sexed, horny as hell signs. So you have to get that under control, meaning that you have to figure out a way not to enter relationships based on lust, because this can lead to getting involved with the wrong people. And some of you are going to know that I'm 100% right about that. And, I go back to Mick Jagger, who's known for that. And in some cases, if people have Venus and Mars in conjunction, and this is especially true for women, they can confuse amazing sex with love, which is a nightmare. If you've ever heard about those relationships where the people, they could even be married for years, but they have like a love-hate relationship, I wouldn't be surprised if the sex is off the charts. But that is really a bad situation, because they can do so much destruction to one another. So, and then you have a very volatile situation. The problem with Leo is that Leo tends to believe that life is this grand play, this grand performance. And so you might confuse a drama-filled relationship with some passionate relationship. I think Aries is also prone to this. I know that Aries is prone to this. You do not want to do that, because you might be a bit of a drama queen yourself, and you don't see it as a problem. It is a problem. You want to have harmonious relationships. Don't think that you're in a boring relationship if you're not having these heated scenes, if you're not arguing all the time. But do find somebody who's positive and fun, and who likes to enjoy life, for sure. This is another two sides of the coin situation, because since Leo rules the 5th house, and part of that is pleasure, and because the moon in Taurus can be very sensual, but not just, people think sensual means sexual. It can be loving good food. You have to really be vigilant about self-indulgence. Even if you're like a foodie who's very sophisticated in that, it's a very fine line, because it can be masking a self-indulgent nature. I've never been to a gourmet restaurant where they had multiple courses, and I've often, when I've read about it, and I consider myself a bit of a foodie, but only, like vegetarian things, or, health, like, kind of like natural things. But I hear about people who go to fancy restaurants and have these multiple courses, and I get I get this vibe, like, it feels like grotesque to me. It feels like so decadent and, self-indulgent. Like I said, my moon is in Virgo, so it might be like very, recoiling at that kind of self-indulgence. However, you might be like, what is your problem, lady? That's like one of the greatest pleasures of life. So if you can be mindful of that, but not be too, doing that all the time, that would be probably a good thing, because you might just think that you're being yourself, but you might be like tilting over into the overly indulgent category. So you want to be aware of how you're doing this. So, I think that this combination can be great for somebody who enjoys life to the fullest. There's a very endearing quality about you as a Leo and having this moon in Taurus, where it's a very, like, the emotions, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily they're shallow, but they're very I was going to say primitive. No, they're very, what you see is what you get. So you may, I think that you might be rather patient emotionally and not be prone to outbursts, but it's hard to say, because the sun in Leo tends to make the person very expressive. And that could include having a temper, even as a sun sign, because it's fire energy. Again, look to Mars and look to the aspects to Mars. Adversely aspected Mars can, from the moon, if the moon is forming a square with Mars, or an opposition in particular, or even a conjunction, to be honest with you, it can create a volatile nature, although the conjunction would typically be in Taurus, so maybe not so much. But if you got prodded and you had that conjunction, there would be a volcano if that person kept messing with you. But in any case, this, I think, is good for prosperity and success, because, like I said, you really stick to your guns, and but, whether it's in career matters or in love matters, be willing to switch gears. Don't become obsessive. Don't steamroll over people, especially if you have Mars in a fixed sign like Taurus or Leo, and try to wear somebody down, because that is something that fixed signs do. I don't know if we would call that manipulation, but it does feel like coercion, and you don't want to be like that. You want to be somebody who can let people make up their own mind in how they're going to, what choices they're going to make. And also being cooperative, not being somebody who is, it's my way or the highway. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. Definitely exercise your artistic sensibilities, because you have them in spades. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.